Ole, 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 ole. Ole, ole. Ole, 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 ole. Ole.
Hello and welcome to Homegrown, the Soccer Yanks home for domestic soccer. I'm your host, Dan DeRocha, and with me is Jason Sierra, the executive producer of Homegrown. Jason, how have you been?
I've been wonderful. I kind of feel like singing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Andrew Jacobson. Happy birthday to you. Do you know why I sang that song today?
No clue.
Well, other than the fact that it's Andrew Jacobson's birthday, a midfielder from NYCFC, it's also a momentous occasion yesterday. Happy birthday is now in the public domain, and we can sing it and not get sued and not lose our pants for it. So the whole world can now sing happy birthday and not have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to Warner. I just want to do that.
I feel like my family owes a lot of money.
No. It's over. It's over. They can appeal. But, if they appeal, we'll just make sure we have a little bit of liability. So when they sue us, they'll sue the company, not us.
That is pop culture like I was not expecting. Thank you for that. That's actually kind of an interesting segue into the legal battle that FIFPro is now engaging with FIFA regarding transfer fees. And a lot of people are calling this Bozeman 2.0. They're arguing really essentially is, for those that are not completely aware of this, is actually the case. I think the initial hearing or something along those lines will actually be heard tomorrow, September 25th. But basically what FIFPro is saying is that transfer fees are uniquely unfair, uncompetitive, and are a complete restriction of free movement of trade, which other industries, for other employees, the way that the system works for football/soccer, it just wouldn't fly. But it looks like the FIFPro actually wants to take a page out of American sports. I mean, what's your take on this, Jay?
It's interesting, and I say this because maybe 2 months ago I was kicking around a topic after talking to a few people from NASL and hearing some interviews from NASL, where players who are NASL starter quality players, but will probably be either squad players in MLS or starters who aren't superstars, decide to stay with NASL because of stability of contract, where they don't get traded like in MLS. So they have the ability to plan long term. They don't get traded on a whim. I was thinking about how the MLS players were getting nickel and dimed using the bartering system. Now, obviously, FIFPro doesn't want the MLS system. They'll strike before another major country uses a single entity system. But it's interesting in the fact that I don't know the ramifications of taking away fees. I mean, you could use fees. There's a bartering system. That's how they're describing it. I sell you a player, you sell me a player, or we try to get the value even, maybe throw some cash in, a bag of balls, and a couple of confection ovens, and we'll get a trade going. Or we have the old system, we just sell players. It just seems like they get what they want, which is to get rid of the fee system. What's the impact of everybody else down the line? And I'm trying to figure that out on my end.
I think initially what they're looking at is the inflated transfer fees that are being taunted around right now, and really what's happening is the movement of talent is being restricted to the elite clubs. This is really a Europe problem, and FIFPro is really trying to solve the issue of teams such as Manchester City, Chelsea, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Chelsea. Did I say Chelsea already? I like to say Chelsea a lot because whenever there's something negative, I say Chelsea.
Well, they have 30 players on loan, so they're kind of a culprit here.
Right. So they're not just trying to eliminate. They're not just trying to eliminate transfer fees. They're trying to set like true squad limits. So what Chelsea is doing, having a second team, essentially a second team on loan somewhere else, having teams like Real Madrid and Manchester City and Barcelona hoarding all the talent. It's not that. And I kind of see where they're going. If they eliminate the transfer fee, it's not that the best players aren't going to go to the best clubs. It's not going to prevent that because the best clubs are still going to be able to provide the highest wage. But what it will do is it will allow the mid-level players to move freer. There will be more freedom of movement, and you might actually see some equilibrium between the mid-level and the top teams. They're never going to be, even footing, but you might see some talent be able to move more freely in those areas. I think it's an interesting concept. I think also they want to stick it up to agents, because I think there's been a lot of I think they keep talking about the David De Gea incident between the two clubs and the agents, and there's a lot of tomfoolery that I think they're trying to eliminate. But I think it is also, that being said, we're all speculating what the future will look like. We're not exactly sure.
For me, I got wondering down the road, if you eliminate fees, what's going to happen to all these youth academies who cipher off funds for every time a player is sold? What's going to happen to, teams who produce a ton of talent, but they can't afford to keep it wage-wise? Like, I think about baseball. There's not as many restrictive mechanisms in trading players in baseball. You can trade players for cash. You can trade players any value for any value. You could trade prospects for players. Whatever you want to do, you can do. And I look at that as being the model. But you also see teams where they trade guys who are on the last year of their contract to another team, and they shift the balance of power. You see all the best players going to a team, and they totally dump their farm system. Are we going to see 16-year-old kids being traded away for established players because because now we can trade prospects? I don't know. Ultimately, if you remove the cash out of the system, what's going to happen? Also, what about? I know the European Union, you can move players around as long as they live within the EU and have EU passports. But what happened to international players? So now players who are from Africa, players from South America, North America, Asia, they have a limited restriction on where they can move now because of this system. I don't know how well they thought this out. I'm sure they're smart people there, and they have tons of degrees, and they really planned this out. But I see that it's kind of opening. I hate using the term Pandora box. I'd rather use some kind of other cliche. But you open a Pandora box that affects so many other aspects around it that you don't know what's going on. Rather than try to figure out a way how to fix the early termination clauses or how to fix free agency, where once your contract's up, you're up and you can go anywhere you want to, doing this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Essentially, you're putting in anarchy, really, and it's going to affect a lot of people who have nothing to do with this.
I think you raised a very, very good point, and one that I maybe even overshadow a little bit in my own thinking. The repercussions for the lower division clubs, let's say the lower tier clubs of the top flights that are better known for developing talent and selling them, and that's their quote unquote business model, like the Southamptons, Atletico Madrids, so on and so forth of the world, that create talent, have good academies, and stay afloat essentially by selling off their highly touted prospects. What happens to those clubs?
Yeah, that's what happens
to what happens to all the low level, like the academies that develop players, and they receive, I forget what the percentage is, but they receive a percentage of the transfer fee up a few, I don't know how many levels, but they do, actually there's another lawsuit right now that we haven't really talked about much on this podcast, but it's kind of relevant right now. DeAndre Yedlin's youth academy is suing MLS, I believe, for their fee, which MLS has not given. Tottenham Hotspurs, they said, they told everybody, hey, we gave all the money, including the money for the academy that developed him, to MLS. It's their job now to dole it out. So this is interesting because that lawsuit would almost become null and void.
Oh yeah, well, not necessarily, because this is retroactive.
It's right.
But Crossfire, who is the youth academy that deals with that's filing the lawsuit, they're filing suit against not only MLS but also the U.S. Soccer Federation. So there's multiple avenues which they're going after, and I think they have. I hope they have a case. I hope they have an issue here. But the problem with the U.S. law, and this has always been the big issue when it comes to youth players, is child labor laws in this country. Essentially, when you're in Europe, you're signing a contract. I don't know if you're signing a contract for your labor here. I can imagine you sign your contract for your labor. You're mostly just signing a contract just to play, for the right to play, to pay to play. But hopefully, I'm hoping Crossfire wins their suit, and some of these academies get money for the talented players they have, and they don't have to charge as much money to kids. But yeah, there's a lot of elements here that we just don't know what's going on. That I'm curious to see. I'm actually the one person I want to hear from that I haven't heard from yet is the Guardian's secret footballer. I was kind of hoping that he would say something as being a rank and file Premier League guy. He's yet to put out a piece regarding that, but I just want to hear more out there because I just don't think that the analysis out there is regarding the legal stance of is it going to pass or will this, who has the right. I don't know but I haven't seen anything regarding the impact of this from anywhere, at least from any English language source.
The only things I've read in as far as impact is who knows. It's very. I don't think anyone's done a very thorough analysis of where this is going to go. Where do you stand on this? You're with the system that exists today?
I would be for a hybrid where you could trade players, but there'll have to be still some kind of compensation for the lower league teams and the youth academies.
I think you could solve a lot of problems by creating a real squad limit. I think you could solve a lot of issues, a lot of the hoarding, because then you have to get rid of a piece to bring in a piece. So it frees up some talent. I think that would be a compromising kind of ruling.
But if that's the case, then we might end up seeing younger players take longer to come up into the first teams. You might see reserve teams being filled with 22, 23, 20-year-old kids who could probably be contributing on a first team somewhere, maybe a second team, or even as a squad player. Now they're not getting the experience, and now they're on the reserve teams. So that's my hesitation for that.
But hold on. Let's talk about this on a global perspective, because okay, maybe for the top 5 leagues in Europe, that's gonna that might be problematic, but for the other 100 leagues in the world, perhaps those top talent guys that are 21, 22 and good enough to play, maybe they leave those countries and they go play in another country, and we get to share some more talent across the globe. It maybe moves talent around. What I'm saying, if you create a limit for each club on how many players they can have in their squad, a true limit, then the talent, obviously, it's like one of those things. If you can't move up, maybe you move sideways. So maybe the United States benefits from something like that, where there's an influx of Europeans or Africans that don't have are not getting a chance in Europe, and they want to get a chance. Maybe MLS, the A League, whatever, all these second tier leagues maybe get a boost out of that.
Well, then they're gonna have to change something regarding international restrictions on some leagues. And that's the only way to do that. It's going to have to be a multi-step process, not just blow up the system and that's it.
I agree. I'll take that. Shifting directions towards our home front. Playoffs are looming in Major League Soccer. And I think it's about time that we start just whittling that stick. We got to get it a little bit narrower. Who the hell's not going to make the playoffs, Jay?
So let's go with the East. Chicago's done. Montreal, as of today, nailed right through the heart of Chicago. They are now, I believe, 12 points behind Montreal after they beat them. Chicago is the worst team in the league. Chicago is averaging less than a point a game. Chicago is they fired their coach. It's just they're done. Congratulations, you're going to go draft Joshua Yarrow in the first round of this super draft. Good job by you. Well, they could use. They need to set her back. So for everybody else, we have Montreal the 6th seed, because at this point in the East, the only thing that's really available is the 6th seed. We have Montreal the 6th seed. They're ahead of Orlando by 4 points, NYCFC by 5, and Philadelphia by 6.
I mean, I think you're being a little. I think the 5th seed is also up. Toronto's only 1 point, ahead of Montreal, and Montreal's got a game in hand on them. I would say the 5th and the 6th are still up for grabs.
Okay. I didn't want to say Toronto. I really wanted to imagine all that talent that they would be able to hang tough. But so that means that there are 5 points ahead of Orlando.
Yes.
6 points ahead of NYCFC and 7 points ahead of Philadelphia. So that's 3 games ahead of Philadelphia. So Philadelphia is done for the 5th seed. And NYCFC is probably done for the 5th seed as well. So
Okay.
it's really Orlando.
So, all right, I see what you're saying. So Orlando, Montreal, or Orlando maybe have a chance to go as high as 5th.
Right. So everybody has 4 games in hand except for Montreal has 6. Orlando has a game at the Red Bulls. They're home for Montreal. They're home for NYCFC, and they're at Philadelphia. So other than the Red Bulls, they have completely winnable games against people who are sitting around them. 23 points at home, 12 points on the road. Their defense still looks like crap, for lack of a better term. They had a ton of injuries. You know, the defense looks bad because of the injuries. They have a lot of Generation Adidas guys who they drafted, who, you know, their reserve system did not do as good of a job as other teams when it became the point where they had to produce good quality squad players, and they suffer from it. And now, you know, their back line is porous. But they have a shot if they could beat Montreal and NYCFC to sneak in there. Regarding Montreal, they're home to DC, which Montreal's a phenomenal home team. They have 29 points. They're at Orlando, at Red Bulls, at Colorado, at New England, and they're home for Toronto.
Oh, man.
And they've only had 10 road points the entire season. Montreal's a very good home team. They are an atrocious road team.
But did they have Didier Drogba for all those away matches?
But they also have to play Didier Drogba on a Saturday and a Wednesday.
I know.
Then a Saturday.
And he's, 40 years old?
Right. I mean, I had tickets for Red Bulls Montreal on a Wednesday. I have no expectation to see Drogba play that Wednesday game.
It's unlikely. And I think they probably go, all right, we'll take the loss at New York. We got to win the other ones.
Oh, yeah, because they have a 6-pointer ahead of time against Orlando. So if they beat Orlando in Orlando, Orlando is basically stuck with 2 more games to catch up. They could finish Orlando's season, you know, early. Next up is NYCFC. They're at Vancouver, which hasn't been playing particularly well. At DC United, which is who knows with DC United sometimes. At Orlando, and then they're home for their final game against New England. And I can't see New England lose that game when they have a opportunity to possibly get the first seed in the East. I was thinking about talking about Philly, but at this point, you know, I can't see Philadelphia really doing much either. But essentially, I mean, we got to kind of applaud the schedule makers here because using backloading the conference play is really making things interesting.
It's a little bit pulling a card out of the NFL deck with making sure that they play division rivals the last week or the last 2 weeks of the season. But backloading the division games is good. It's definitely exciting for sure. I had pegged Orlando to be a playoff team and New York City to not be a playoff team. We're keeping Toronto in that 5th spot. I don't know. I don't feel good about Toronto. I feel like they've just been so up and down. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Impact and Orlando City make it up and Toronto just miss out. I mean, it's going to require a lot from Orlando to make it. I feel good about Orlando, although I'm going to watch Red Bulls play them this tomorrow, actually, and I'm hoping for the Red Bulls to smash them. But aside from my own biased views, Orlando has something special about them. I know that they've been let down by their defense big. There's something bubbling there. Maybe in this season is not their season. I did not see. I know that the Impact had like 7 games in hand for a big chunk of the season because of the CONCACAF Champions League. I didn't see this resurgence coming. I'm actually quite impressed with the fact that they moved up the table so rapidly. I would say, I guess if you're going to give me some locks, I could say Chicago, Philadelphia, and New York City have no shot at the playoffs at this point. For me. And I think I think Orlando, Montreal, and Toronto they're all bubble teams.
With the game in hand, you have to think that Montreal's going to take it. But when you look at the schedule, I'm going to repeat this one more time. Home for DC, at Orlando, at New York on a Wednesday, at Colorado, at New England, and then home to Toronto. Can you see them securing 5 points in those 6 games? DC could be a loss or it could be a win. And Toronto, I say they win either DC or Toronto at home. They win one home game in that matchup. Colorado does not give up goals. In New England and New York are fighting for supporter shield / home field advantage in the East. So they're not going to give up games against a number 6 seed team. Can Orlando get 6 points out of the last 4? Because I'm not sure if Montreal can get 5 points out of the last 6.
Wow. I think Orlando. What's Orlando's again?
At the Red Bulls, home to Montreal, home to NYCFC, at Philadelphia. That's a much easier schedule.
Oh, I think they could get points off NYCFC and Philly for sure, and then Montreal. But let's say they get a point off Montreal.
That's a home game. I think that if Drogba shows up, but that's a home game. Still in humid, disgusting. Florida just got done with hurricane season, or just kind of in the middle of hurricane season weather. Do you expect Montreal to really to put up a big fight on the road?
Well, their season's on the line, so they have to. But yes, I see exactly. You're. So are you making a case that Orlando will make the playoffs and leapfrog Montreal here?
Yeah, I think I'm making a case. I can see Orlando earn 9 points. Definitely 7. But I can see him earn 9 points. I don't know if I can see Montreal get 5 out of the last 6.
I could go to bat for that. I could see that. I could see Orlando doing that. I think Montreal definitely has a harder road. I think Montreal for sure has a harder road. I think Orlando makes the playoffs. Montreal doesn't. You've convinced me. You've provided enough statistical analysis, enough data. No.
I just told you the schedule. That's it.
I know, but
it's common sense.
You said it twice.
That's true.
It was double as effective. So that's it. I think we're both on the same page. Orlando's going to leapfrog Montreal, and they're going to take the 6th spot. Lock it up.
Lock it up. We got Orlando. Orlando sneaking in.
All right, give me your West.
The West is a little bit difficult right now. Seattle has played well over the last 4 games. They beat Vancouver twice, even though one's MLS game, one is CONCACAF game. Dallas is playing okay, but it seems like the teams in the West are beating up on each other. Honestly, the biggest beneficiary right now is Seattle and Real Salt Lake, who, when we were having our prediction podcast, and I actually got annoyed because I forgot to mention that I believe that Real Salt Lake was actually going to not make the playoffs this year. And until maybe a couple of weeks ago, they were. But they've come back, they play a lot better, and they put themselves within 3 points of the 6th seed right now. I mean, they have 5 games remaining. They're at 38. So they're playing well, they're scoring goals, they scored 3 goals in the last 2 games. And they've only lost 1 match in the last 4. Compared to everybody else, you look at Sporting, they've won 1 match and drawn 1 match in their last 7. San Jose, who had a ton of home games, has only got 2 points out of the last 4 matches. Portland, 2 points out of the last 4 matches. Houston has 2 wins, a draw, and 4 losses out of the last 7. So, the scheduling Western Conference opponents, common opponents, is really starting to beat up on these teams, and now it's starting to become a lot tighter in the West.
Really, it's what we're seeing is, I think the teams in the West are better overall, and I think we're seeing the points from top to bottom are tighter, for one, and then you start 48, 47, 47, 45, 44, 41, 40. I mean, there's no big jumps here. Everybody can move 1 match, 1-2 matches. People are shimmying way up the table here. I think we're really looking at more talent And yes, they are beating up on themselves, and that happens. But steel sharpens steel. We might still be seeing some great teams going into the playoffs here. Wow. I mean, you look at the 6 seed, the Timbers at 41, San Jose at 40, the Dynamo at 38, RSL at 38. I would say the only team that you can wholeheartedly, I think, right now, and they don't let up a lot of goals, at home at least, Colorado. I think there's the only ones that maybe don't have a chance here.
Well, I mean, they have 10 draws. They don't give up goals. They're -6 for being the worst team in the division as a goal differential. That's respectable for a team.
Yeah, Orlando City's at -14, just for point of reference.
Right. Colorado's not going to get in the playoffs, but they're going to drive you nuts. I mean, they're going to get points off of you. In this case, it's just like whoever the hot team is right now is going to be able to sneak in. And Portland looks like they're confused. Sporting KC. Either they're worn down again this season like they did last season. So many people worried that the Red Bulls were going to be able to press people for the whole year. Sporting KC plays the same exact way. This is the second season in a row that towards the end of the year, they look like they're gassed.
Did it hurt them to be part of the West?
Well, traveling-wise, no. I mean, they're dead center in the country, so traveling-wise is not going to be an issue. But, of course, playing tougher competition. Teams who play more possession, teams who are just better competition. Yeah, maybe that might wear you out. Maybe you don't have that easy game against Philadelphia or that midweek Montreal game when they go to you. You're gonna get an easy win off of. But I just think Kansas City right now is having structural difficulty. They have some young players on the wings, especially in their fullback position. But I think overall, that team looks gas. I think that team needs to think about reloading next year if they want to be seriously, because I don't think they got it this year.
For the West, I have only one demand, or I guess it's a wish, not a demand. I just want the Dynamo to not make the playoffs. Only because if they make the 6th seed, they might win the whole thing.
Well,
no, I'm kidding. Just history repeating itself.
Well, Dom Kinnear's now at San Jose, so
right. So then maybe I don't want San Jose to make the 6th seed. Maybe that's what everyone's saying.
Houston has probably been the most uninteresting team all season to watch. I really was hoping a big things out of Eric Cubo Torres. It's just he has done really nothing this season. They're not fun to watch. They almost remind me of the DC United of the West, just without getting the results. I feel like if DC United was in the West, they'll probably be in a similar position. It's unattractive. Sit back, counter, lump it forward, get timely goals, and win games. Unfortunately for Houston, they don't have the overall talent that DC has. They don't have the overall experience that DC has to get those timely goals and to get those
to be as cunning. To be as cunning.
DC is a team. You look at them like, how do they win games, and they win them. And you just sit there, you nod with respect, like the gentlemen they are.
So what's intriguing me a little bit here is RSL's schedule here. So they're in CONCACAF Champions League, so that adds a little bit extra pressure, right? So they got a home match, Santa Tecla. Then they're away to San Jose. They're away to Colorado. They're home to Portland. They're home to Dallas. Champions League against Municipal at home, and then away to Seattle. So let's see here. So they have 2 CONCACAF Champions League matches in the middle there. San Jose's one position above them, I believe, in the table right now.
Yeah, but they're not playing particularly well. After they beat LA 1-0, they've kind of fallen off the cliff. And they're mostly home matches too. They play and they've lost.
They're away to Colorado, so we were just talking about that. That might be a tough one to grab points off of. And then they got Portland, who has been a bit bipolar. Who knows what's going on with Portland? And then they finish it off with Seattle. I mean, can they recover the 3 points over Portland? They need to recover 3 points over Portland. Maybe if they win against Portland. If they win against Portland, they got DC at home, Seattle away. It's actually doable to see Salt Lake make the playoffs.
I think that they finally are breaking out of the Jason Christ diamond. They're going with the 4-2-3-1. I think that's good for some of their older players who are on that spine. They have an old spine. So when you put Luke Mulholland on that spine, who have younger legs, who's a strong player, it protects Beckerman, it protects Olave, it protects Jaime Morales. And I think they kind of need to break that diamond. And they're getting healthy. Juan Manuel Martinez is playing better. He's had a goal and assist in the last 2 matches. Sandoval has had 3 goals in 2 games. Morales is playing better right now. It looks like they finally figured out what it is. And having a little more youth in that spine has been that difference for that team.
All right, let's get to the nitty gritty here. Can you eliminate more than one team? Can you eliminate more than Colorado from the West?
I'm ready to eliminate Houston. San Jose has too many home games at this point, even though they're not getting results on home. And again, Dom Kinnear in September, in October, you don't bet against them until it's over. So
Houston's the only other team that you completely rule out. Maybe San Jose has a chance to sneak in, grab the Timber spot. That's ultimately what you're telling me.
Yeah, I can't.
It's hard. It's very hard. It's very, 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 very hard. Colorado, I could say we can all agree Colorado probably is not going to make it. I hate agreeing with you, Jay, because it just makes for a boring podcast. But I think you're right. I think the Dynamo are the only other team that you can eliminate.
Do you think Sporting's a threat? Is being threatened right now from their spot? I know they're 4 points ahead of San Jose, and they're 6 ahead of Real, and 3 ahead of Portland. But they're playing bad.
I think they can hold on. They're playing bad, but they're not. They're scoring goals. They're just not. They're just not holding on. They can maybe shake it. I'm not sure. I've seen this team. This team was so good for so long. I don't know. Can you write them off? Is it time to write them off? They're playing Seattle, Philadelphia in the Open Cup final, Portland, San Jose, Colorado, LA. Oh man, it looks pretty hard for them actually. It's pretty hard.
I think as a team, as a structure, as a roster, that this spine is gas. I think Benny Feilhaber has carried them as long as he can carry them. They're not getting enough from Dwyer, and Zusi's kind of been a shell of himself since the World Cup. I don't know really what's going to carry this team through.
All right, so let's do this then. Since we can't really eliminate, give me your rather than say who's not going to make it, give me who's going to make it. Give me your 5 and 6.
I want to say Sporting's out of it, but mathematically, just the way the numbers look, right now it's Sporting and say that Real Salt Lake gets in at number 6. Portland's out, and I think Killaport is out with that team too.
Oh, I would say if he does not make the playoffs, I would say that's for sure. I don't know why. I think it's going to be San Jose and Real Salt Lake. I got a funny feeling. And knocks both Sporting and Portland, and I think you're right. I think Killaport gets shown the door. Maybe he gets a chance somewhere else. Maybe he goes back to college. Who knows? We're actually upcoming to several definitive matches, defining championship big-time matches. We have we'll list them in no particular order. We have the CONCACAF Cup, which is the playoff between the 2 Gold Cup winners, which happens to be Mexico versus USA at the Rose Bowl, October 10th. We have the U.S. Open Cup, Philadelphia versus Kansas City, SKC, about 7 days.
Wednesday.
All right, so 6 days from now. And we also have the NWSL Final on October 1st, and that's FC Kansas City versus the Seattle Reign. I mean, this is a pretty big time frame right now in the next 10 days for U.S. soccer.
You know, it's a nice showcase. The U.S. Open Cup final is going to be on ESPN2. It just was announced today that ESPN will be showing a game live. After I remember last year, I had to watch the Gold Cup. I had to watch the game on Gold TV Spanish, so it wasn't even Gold TV English. I saw the U.S. Open Cup on Gold TV, whatever Espanol. But I don't know what they use as their marker to signify Spanish. But it's a big moment for the U.S. Open Cup. I think I'm not 100% believing that this game is going to be phenomenal. I will watch it, of course. But I don't think it's going to be a great match. Philadelphia is just not an interesting team to watch, and we just had a whole segment about how gassed, my opinion, how gassed Sporting is. But I'm excited for the I'm excited for the esteem and the privilege it's going to get as actually getting a big national audience.
And we're going to get into this a little bit. Maybe the time of the year is not awesome, and I think it's great that it's getting picked up on a major network, and we're going to be able to watch it on a major network. But the U.S. Open Cup final is on a Wednesday. To me, that just reeks of unimportance. You know, if they really wanted to really showcase the match, they put it on a Sunday or a Saturday. I'll take a Saturday. I'll accept a Saturday. And I know, like I said, it is the fall in the United States, and maybe you're asking for trouble there on a Wednesday night. And I know you're in the middle of the league. Maybe you got to move the U.S. Open Cup to. The problem is that the later we get into this year, the colder it gets, and our temperature here in the U.S. is just not super conducive to soccer. But do you take the league? Does the league take a break so everyone can pay attention to the U.S. Open Cup? I mean, see, that's the problem, is that the MLS is at stakes with. They don't really care. It's not really their thing.
So obviously the comparison is going to be the FA Cup, as always.
Or the Copa del Rey, or the, whatever they call it, the DFK Cup in Germany.
Okay, so because we have a playoff system, the game can't be the week before or the week after the final game of the season. So number one. Number two, it's not held at a neutral venue. It's held whoever is awarded the home field advantage. So now you're asking Philadelphia late in the season to move a game from a Saturday to another day, it's a difficult ask to do. They have their own stadium, they can do it, but it's a difficult ask to do, especially when you have another team who, they could be playing a team who's playing in the CONCACAF Champions League. They could play a team who just, like New York City, who might not have the ability to switch games because of stadium limitations. So if you're asking for that Saturday game, you need a neutral site.
I'll take that. Okay, but I can agree with that.
Why not have it on Labor Day? It's your own day. It's a holiday. It's a Monday. If you want, the teams can play their other game on a Thursday. It's a neutral site. It's your day. Have it in the middle of the daytime. People will come because people are off. Have it there the first weekend of September.
I think that they should have. I think the MLS Cup final should be the day after Thanksgiving every year, and the U.S. Open Cup should be on Labor Day. I think that's what's more American than that. No, that's a great idea, Jay. And I think neutral site. That's how you take it to the next level, right? You take it to the U.S. Open Cup every year. You want to make it more Americanized. Make it like the Super Bowl. It moves around from city to city. It's, like MLS All-Star Game. It's moving around. So the U.S. Open Cup final is going to be in New Orleans this year. And that gets a chance for that city to showcase a little bit of soccer love, where they don't have an MLS club. They don't have they don't have a NASL club. What are the Jesters? I'm not even sure sure what division they're in.
NPSL.
Okay. So move it around. It goes to St. Louis. It goes to Orlando. It goes to Miami. It goes to wherever. That is a great idea. But the problem is that USSF maybe they're in bed with MLS to a certain extent, but MLS doesn't buy into everything else that is American soccer. They're very focused on their product and their product alone. And I think that's where we're at odds. Is that we don't have a governing body that really can put their arms around the whole system and say, all right, guys, we're all working together here. We have a governing body that's half in bed with MLS, that has to accept that NASL exists, that has these lower divisions, it has no real pyramid. We're very disjointed, and I know it's growing pains. Although soccer has been in America for 100 years, it hasn't really been taken seriously. Or rather, it died at one point, and then is now being reborn in the last 25, 30 years. So we're in an infancy, so to speak, as far as on a global game. But we're facing some serious challenges here from if we want to compare ourselves to these other leagues, we need to start making big boy decisions. And I'm not sure the people in charge of USSF are ready for those decisions.
I agree with you. we've had a lot of time between podcasts and a lot of topics we probably would have talked about, which including the NASL possible lawsuit, U.S. soccer, and U.S. soccer raising their standards. Whether you agree with them or not, it's clear that U.S. soccer and MLS are in bed together more than anything else. But the one thing you said, and I'm going to let you stand on your soapbox because you did a wonderful job there. The one thing you said that I absolutely love, you did not name a MLS city you did not name as many MLS cities when you were talking about venues. You talked about St. Louis, you talked about New Orleans.
I gave you Orlando and Miami, which is one new one and one maybe.
Well, but having it at a site that is not an MLS site, we don't need to have it at a 70,000 seat stadium. You could have it at a nice college stadium. You could have it at Cary, North Carolina. Their facilities are great. They have the College Cup there often. If you want to have it at a big stadium, you can have a big stadium. But I think it'd be nice to have it in historical cities like St. Louis. Unfortunately, some of the historical cities don't have stadiums right now, so you can't have it in Bethlehem. Well, we can have it at Bethlehem. There's colleges in Bethlehem. Maybe actually have it inside Boston, which would be nice. So I like some of those ideas, but as before, the next step is now separating MLS from controlling this great tournament, which is finally getting the platform in the state it deserves.
We went a little bit on a tangent here. We went deep on U.S. soccer. What are your thoughts on NWSL Final? FC Kansas City versus Seattle Reign.
Well, it's a rematch from last year. These are clearly the best teams in the league. They both dominated their semifinals, both winning 3-1. The only thing I'm going to be disappointed about, I'm not going to talk too much about the game. To say myself as an expert, I won't try to diminish people who are true experts. What I will say is, and this happened when it came to the semifinals, they had a problem with viewership because they scheduled a game at a poor time. And now Thursday night is traditionally a great night for TV, but you're going up against NFL. And I'm not sure if people are going to tune in to this match when it's going up head-to-head with NFL match on Thursday night. And I think that's a real shame. I think that's a problem. They're going to have a good crowd there. It's going to be Portland. Portland shows up. So I'm sure Seattle fans are going to show up, but I just wish there would have been something where we can at least see a 1 rating, because I don't think we're going to get that.
I mean, right now we're in the ratings bonanza for college football and NFL. It's hard for everything to compete against them, but I think you try to go against college football. I think you try to Saturday. At least you maybe have a fighting chance. I see with the mentality on a Thursday, you're going against the NFL on a Thursday. The problem is with Thursday is you're dividing it not only with NFL, you're dividing it with broadcast TV. Thursday night is a big broadcast TV tonight. It's a tough. Soccer, unfortunately, it's an uphill battle. They got to get those small victories. The other big match, the CONCACAF Cup, Mexico versus USA, October 10th. We haven't really talked about much about the U.S. men's national team. Serious string of injuries. What are you thinking here with Mexico? Are you going to see? Let's take it a step back. How are you feeling about Klinsmann right now?
Him bringing back Matt Besler into the team, I think that kind of shows that he realized he got it wrong during the Gold Cup. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to start Matt Besler. It means he's going to include Matt Besler in the final roster. But I think there was a recognition that his ability to scout players wasn't up to snuff. Maybe his decision to go away from guys who might not be the flashiest, might not be the most renowned talent-wise, might not be the most recognized because they play in a foreign league or because of the next big thing coming up. But I think he realized there's a different outcome would happen in that game if it was Matt Besler or Omar Gonzalez playing in that back line against Jamaica. Because those kids made unexcusable mistakes in that game that Matt Besler and Gonzalez, they would have made different mistakes, Besler and Gonzalez. They're not perfect. But as veterans, as guys who played against big-time competition, guys who played against competition in CONCACAF as well, they would have made those mistakes. I think he recognizes that maybe good enough is all you need, the future stars.
Well, you play the future at certain points. You don't necessarily throw them in the deep end.
Right. Right. I think maybe just didn't have the respect for Jamaica as well. I think maybe just didn't have the respect that Jamaica was a good enough team to beat the U.S. at the time. But I think now there's a recognition that the selection at the time was wrong, and I can't see him picking those two center backs again for this game.
For this game, as far as defense, two big additions this week. Beasley and Fabian Johnson are both healthy. Actually, Johnson scored a goal this week in Germany, which is great for Klinsmann to hear. So I think fullback-wise, I think those are the two we're going to see. I think those are his preferred. I think that's who we're going to see.
Even if Fabian Johnson is marked as a midfielder?
I think I think he's going to have to play him as a fullback.
Agreed, but I said he's in as a midfielder on this roster. Don't know what that means, but
I don't know what that means either. I don't think that Cameron though gets dislodged as a center back. The next couple of weeks between Beasler and Gonzalez, I think that's where you're going to see. I think it's whoever gets the hot hand, so to speak, or hot foot, which it doesn't look like it's going to be Gonzo because he's been off. But you never know. He's got 12 days, 13 days to figure it out. Maybe he can impress. But I think it's going to be Beasler and Cameron as center backs.
Now, who do you have as a midfield? Because I when I break this team down and I look at different things in the midfield, I always think about who protects what position. If you want your best players on the field, you have to sacrifice somewhere else. And someone's going to have to protect somebody else. So if you want Jermaine Jones on the field, you have to have Kyle Beckerman. And Kyle Beckerman has taken a step back this year, athletically, at least. He's still passing accuracy. He's still phenomenal. I think he's still the best passing accuracy in MLS. But he's clearly slower to the ball. He's clearly slower stepping forward. I don't know. Do you think there's anybody else who can play with Jones in a 4-2-3-5 or in a diamond, or are you just you kind of have to grin and bear it?
I think Klinsmann is going to play Jones and Bradley next to each other, but and this is maybe not a very popular thing to say, and I know that I was one of those people. I went absolutely bananas when Jones scored that goal in the World Cup, but I don't like Jermaine Jones. It's hypocritical, right? I love seeing him in the U.S. men's national team. I love seeing the goal. The goal he scored was epic for us. He gave his all during the World Cup, but I just feel he's too much of a wrecking ball, and on top of that, he's an old wrecking ball. I don't think he gives enough to warrant the start. Now, who plays? I think Bradley still gets it. I don't know who exactly slots next to Bradley. I don't have an again a little bit of maybe a hypocrite. I don't have answers. I just have complaints. But I don't. And I agree with you. Like if you have Jones in there, you need Beckerman. You need someone that's going to protect because Bradley and Jones together, there's no protection on that back line. They're and whoever's going to play those wing backs, or play the wings or the outside midfielders. They're not going to add anything to the defensive side of the game. We're in trouble.
Well, no, hold on, no. If you put in Alejandro Bedoya, you have a solid defender on that side. And let's just say, and I think Yossi Zardev's earned his spot as a wing attacker. If you put Jermaine Jones in, I don't know how you set up this team to include your best attacking players, because you got to put Clint Dempsey on the field, and you got to put Bradley on the field. And at that point, who's going to be the number 9? Is it going to be Josie? Is it going to be Johansson? Is it going Bobby Wood's the only other option because you're not taking Jordan Morris. He's included on the U23 national team, and Jordan Morris is a winger. He's not a center forward. If you look up the spine of this team and you go Bradley, Dempsey, Josie, who's behind them? And then who's to his left, who's to if he has to have Jermaine Jones on this team, he has to have Beckerman. And if he has Beckerman, then you're basically saying it's Bedoya or Zardeth. Unless you put Zardeth as a forward, as a number 9. but he's not a hold-up player. He runs the channels. It's just a lot of old, worn-out pieces that just don't fit together right now.
I think we're going to see another team that doesn't fit together. I think the midfield is going to be Zardes, Jones, Bradley, and Bedoya. And I think up top, you're going to see Dempsey and this is where you flip a coin. You flip a coin. It's either Altidore or Johansson. I think it's going to be more of a 4-4-2.
Empty bucket 4-4-2? So it's Jones and Bradley sitting back and kind of taking turns filling the number 8.
Let's hope that they're taking turns.
Well,
and not both rampaging forward.
Right.
Yes, but that's what I think. I think that's ultimately what we're going to see. I'm not sure I like it. I'm not sure we have another option either, though. Tim
Ream as your holding midfielder instead of Kyle Beckerman?
You think Ream can play holding midfielder?
He played for Bolton.
But he's been starting as a center back, I think, now.
Well, he's starting as a center back now, but he played with the Bolton. I mean, he hasn't played for the U.S. national team in that position much. So to put him in that position in this game, you don't want to do that. It's clear from the game against Brazil, Klinsmann wants to put on Jones in the middle of the field, and he wants someone to be next to him. And he put Bedoya in that position, and obviously Bedoya just can't play that position, and that's fine. He's not built for that position. Do you put Mix there?
Oh, I forgot about that guy. He can't play holding. He can't hold.
I don't think so. He doesn't have the bite. He doesn't have the. He doesn't have the bite. He makes nice small intermediate passes, but those long balls he can't do. I don't think he can pivot. He doesn't
have the vision. He doesn't have the vision for the field.
Yeah. So again, we have a lot of pieces. And they don't fit well together. At least Mexico's in kind of turmoil, right? They're changing. They're not playing a 3-back formation anymore. They're going 4 backs. So.
That's the only silver lining to this is that Mexico is also reeling. We might just get a step, on the back foot, and we take advantage of it. At least it's on home turf. Oh, kind of. It's California. It's Rose Bowl. It's kind of. Yeah. Come on, it's got to be a home game.
I mean, I guess you can pull out your passport. I guess that's okay. I guess it's a home game for that.
And to round out the show, we're going to have our typical quick-fire questions. We're going to name them after Yogi Berra, who had unfortunately passed away today, a Yankee legend, but he also grew up in St. Louis with many of the U.S. men's national team players that went on to beat England in 1950 at the World Cup. And he was also known to go watch the Cosmos play in New York. He was residing in New Jersey, where Jay and I are from. He's kind of a local legend around here, so rest in peace, Yogi. First question I got. Should soccer try to compete head-to-head with the NFL on Sundays?
When the Sunday night soccer was announced, and we had all this momentum going in, I was kind of always sitting back and wondering what's going to happen once football starts. Is ESPN and Fox Sport 1 going to put forth as much effort to promote the games, knowing that they could just easily have a football post-game show on their channels and probably get triple the ratings? But we have them here, and I'm going to be interested in seeing the ratings, and I'm going to be interested in seeing if they're going to keep it like this next year. There's a couple of intriguing matchups on Sunday, as long as we don't get any more of these Philadelphia-Houston or Chicago-San Jose matchups on Sunday night. We get some interesting matchups. I think we're still going to get decent numbers. I think there's still an opportunity to counter-program.
Fortune favors the bold. I think you need to try. I think I agree with you. You maybe want to save your bigger matchups, your big division matches, your NYCFC versus RBNYs, your Galaxies and Seattles. You want to save some of those matches when you're doing the scheduling for this time of the year, because those are the ones that are going to bring in the ratings. And it's a marketing game at this point. Everyone's competing for the same eyeballs. I like American football. I like soccer. I like European football. I have a divided attention. Okay, what am I going to watch Sunday night? If I'm tuning in and it's Colorado versus Houston, I'm not watching that. I'll watch Indianapolis play New England in NFL. I prefer to watch that. It's more exciting. It's about the excitement factor. It's about the drama. It is about the marketing right now. It's about being savvy, and I think MLS has to be very savvy to win this battle. But I do think that they need to do it. They need to try, because I think if they cower and they give up on the Sunday night, to add as many sports cliches, you can't score a goal if you don't shoot. So they got to do it. They got to try, and I think they need to be savvy about their scheduling.
So this Sunday, it's Sporting Kansas City at Seattle, San Jose at Real, and Galaxy at Dallas. All good matchups, all playoff all playoff impact matchups. So if I got the time, I'm watching all three. But I also don't watch football. So that football, not this football.
You don't watch the American football.
No, I don't watch Premier League either.
Well, it's Broncos Lions at 8:30 at night. Do you know what the evening game is for MLS on Sunday?
It's gonna be L.A. Dallas is at 9:00, and the 7:00 is San Jose and Real. I'm
capable of watching one or the other or both. I'm not so sure I'm going to tune in for Broncos Lions. That's not too exciting for me. It's worth a coin. Maybe I'm flipping between both. I mean, listen, the NFL makes it very easy to not watch because there's only about 20 seconds of action for every 4 minutes of commercial. So that's the one thing. Maybe MLS needs to do that. They need to market that. Are you sick of watching commercials? Here's 45 straight minutes of action.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way they got to do. Next question I think is on you, Jay. What do you got?
The NWSL has announced their awards this season, and Crystal Dunn, who is probably the, I guess would you consider the last player out of the U.S. national team, she won the MVP with 15 goals, had a phenomenal season, youngest NWSL player to win the MVP. But the Defensive Player of the Year was a little bit of contention. Becky Sauerbrunn, the center back from the U.S. national team, clearly the best defensive player in the league, but only played about half the games due to U.S. national team action. Do you think that despite she's the best player in the league at center back position, or at defensive position, period, she deserved to be Defensive Player of the Year, only playing half the games?
I don't want to be a hypocrite, because I was very, very critical of the women's players that didn't want to play in the league, Abby Wambachs, that wanted to take a lot of time off from the league to really focus on the Women's World Cup, because I felt like the league then, which is the thing that happens every single year, was being put as this secondary thing and not the real catalyst, the real thing that's going to work day in, day night. Where like some of the players look at the Women's World Cup and that was the big focus, and NWSL was just this thing. But really, NWSL is the thing that you need to love and focus and give your attention to. So I think she shouldn't be the Defensive Player of the Year. She didn't give the love to the league.
Well, hold on. It's not necessarily her fault that the league decided to continue playing. Played 11 out of 20 games and missed a large chunk of them because of the World Cup and because of the celebration tours and everything else. I think as a defensive, first off, I think her teammates should have won. Amy Lapebette. I'm very poor pronouncing French names, so forgive me. The team was the best defensive team. They had 9 clean sheets. Really, it was her teammates' position award to win. But I don't think it's her fault that she was given this award for the third straight year. I think shame on the media for being lazy. Shame on you. I had a vote. I didn't vote for her. I didn't put her at number one.
There we go. Shame on the media. I can live with that. Okay. Rounding it out. Here we go. The USL is actually entering their playoffs right now, and there's a few MLS affiliates in those playoffs. And the question I have for you, Jay, is, will a purebred USL club win or will an MLS affiliate win?
I mean, the best team for most of the year has been Rochester Rhinos. They've had a phenomenal start to the season, and they held it together pretty well. Everyone's favorite independent team, Sac Republic, they lost Preki. Preki's gone. We don't know where Preki is. We miss Preki. Preki, come back. But we don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're going to be, able to beat LA Galaxy, who is just so saturated with talent, and the Rebels as well, just being so saturated with talent. A lot of good young players on both teams. But I just think by the sheer numbers, think by the road that these teams have to take, that I don't see a MLS affiliate winning it this year. I think they don't have the experience. They don't have that grit and grind, that takes after a couple of years of playing in the league and playing in the playoffs. And just looking at the path that they have to take, the Rebels have to face. Will have to get through the Rhinos, which I don't think is going to happen. LA is going to have to get through SAC. I think SAC's still a good team, even though Preki's gone. I'm gonna say no. No, and MLS teams are not going to win, and that's a good thing.
I think you're right. I'm looking at the Rochester Rhinos here, and their record is just phenomenal. They finished the season with 61 points. Louisville had 48. In the West, the number one team had 47, which was OKC Energy. They just seemed so dominant. My local boys, Red Bulls 2, they had 42 points. It's just, is that possible? Is it possible? And LA and both Seattle, they snuck into the playoffs in 5th and 6th in the West with 45 and 42 points. This is going to be a true USL team is going to win this. Is it going to be the Rhinos? They're surely the front runners right now, but that's why they have playoffs. That's why American sports have playoffs, because you never quite know what's going to happen. If I had to wager, it's not going to be Red Bulls 2, LA 2, or Seattle 2 that's going to be lifting any trophies this season. And on that note, that wraps the show for this month's Homegrown. We love putting the show together. We're trying to maybe expand a little bit, maybe get twice a month. It's been a little difficult. We're entering the fall season. Maybe we could do it. There's a lot of soccer to talk about right now. We've got some new and exciting things coming out. We've got a newsletter coming out. Please subscribe. Get on board. It's a tinyletter/homegrown. Visit that URL. Sign up. We'll be putting out our first one next week. For everything about Homegrown and more, please visit socceryanks.com. To connect with me, I'm on Twitter at SoccerYankDan. Jay?
I'm still at Rescinded Red, and college soccer starting, njcollegesoccer.com and at njcollegesoccer.
And that is the show, folks. Thank you for listening. We will catch you next time.